Thank you so much. So my name is Tono. I'm the co-founder of Eevie, and we are basically building a B2B climate engagement SaaS platform. So a little bit different than the hydrogen topic that we had, but equally exciting. So just quick little intro on myself before starting Eevie. I was working as a consultant for blue chip companies, helping them essentially create their climate commitments that we're looking at here. We see the exponential growth of the climate commitments being made by Fortune 500 companies. And I mean, it was really, really exciting times. It was really exciting to see that big companies are finally starting to take this seriously and finally understanding the importance of reducing their impact on the environment from a commercial perspective. But at the same time, it also started becoming extremely frustrating because it became more and more evident that the companies were just missing the right working cultures, the right mindset in order to even achieve and accomplish these goals. And I mean, just the fact that more than half of the company's employees who are supposed to live and implement these new ways of working don't even know about the climate commitments, just basically became very worrisome. And what I was seeing there, what started to play out was, as Peter Drucker famously said, that culture was going to eat strategy for breakfast. So I thought that would be a good place to get started with Eevie. There we go. And that is why we built Eevie, which is a climate engagement SaaS platform to help companies accelerate their ESG goal implementation. So with Eevie, basically companies can build highly configurable climate campaigns that enable any employee to understand the impact of their day-to-day work on the environment, on the ESG goals of the company, and gives them a way to really plan in a very specific way, measurable way, on how to engage everyone to achieve their ESG goals. So how does that work? Basically, in a gamified experience, teams work on very specific goals that are being set through the campaigns. They learn how to improve their behavior during these campaigns. And in a behavioral design aspect, the Eevie app helps everyone individually understand what their impact is from their day-to-day work and how they can adopt new behaviors in order to reduce the CO2 emissions of their day-to-day work in the process. They get rewarded in the process, and in order to help further improve the impact on our biodiversity restoration. So obviously we have lots of different things that can be done. What we realized very quickly is that essentially companies know very, very well what they need to do, the challenges to get the employees to do that. So what we started in the beginning is to build together with them campaigns that are very relevant to enable them to reach their goals. So Eevie is a platform where the companies really build their individual campaigns themselves. We help them and support them to do that, but we're not the ones to tell them what to do, because we don't know what a manufacturing company can do in order to improve their production cycles. We don't know what a marketing company could do to have a more environmentally friendly marketing campaigns, but we know how to engage employees into improving their day-to-day behavior. So one example was that ABN AMRO, one of our customers, they invested a lot in order to set up an amazing waste management and recycling facilities and across all of their offices, with the result is none of the employees were actually using this, bringing in wrong litter from outside of the office, etc. So we created the Net Zero campaign together, where the employees were being engaged and rewarded for understanding what their impact is in recycling at work and helping them reduce on average 200 kilograms CO2 per employee per year through this program. So we provide measurable results for the Scope 3 measure.
1 minute warning.
Climate reductions. The market is humongous. What we're looking at, however, on the right-hand side is our current serviceable obtainable market, which is made up of 1 million employees working for companies that we've already signed today. So roughly 50 million ARR potential there, and another million and a bit of customers currently in our deal pipeline. The market is mainly driven right now over here in Europe, where we are through ESG regulation, which means basically the license, the rights to have free emissions is going to be gone halved by 2030 and removed by 2050. So CO2 is already at 100 euros per ton and is only growing. So this is a very expensive problem for them to reduce their emissions. We've already onboarded a lot of big corporate customers because they have a huge issue to bring this into the mass and really need all of their employees to engaged. So we are working together for a couple of years together with Bayer, with DHL, with ABB, all the numbers where you can see. And how we do that is basically they pay a yearly license fee per employee.
Time is up.
Packages on for that, and yeah. So I wasn't quite.
No worries. How much are you guys raising? What stage are you at?
So we're currently at seed, and we're looking to raise 1.5 million in order to build out our platform and get more sales activities going, because there's huge potential, and we're basically just 12 people right now with 2 salespeople. So missing out a lot of opportunity at the moment.
No worries. So one quick question while I bring the other panelists in. You've got a lot of big brand names on as customers, but not a ton of revenue. What's the story?
So the story is quite simple. It's a completely new kind of solution that the big corporates don't know. They don't know what to expect. They don't know what value on their investment, what return on investment we're bringing to them. So what we're doing in the sales cycle in the beginning, with this being a very early market, is that we're starting off with POCs, where they're basically getting a small part of a division, for example, 200 employees on board, and then they pay me like $10,000 for 3 months to kind of trial it out, proof of concept. From these agreements, proof of concept agreements, we then move towards yearly licenses. Currently, the agreements we have on average are 3-year deals that they do with us, but it takes a bit of work in order to get through that procurement process. I mean, we're doing enterprise sales, so it takes a little bit time to scale that up, but we've done a lot of work over the last year and a half and are well into that. So this year we're looking at having 500,000 of ARR. Next year, hopefully 2.5 million ARR. So once you're in there, you not only have the ability to get quite good lock-in effects, but you also are starting to experience lots of network effects, because these corporates are basically like many big companies in one big company. So once you're in one, you can start expanding quite nicely.
What's your rate of success from POC to paid customer?
Right now, 100%. So we haven't had one POC yet that didn't turn into a customer. We still have quite a few ongoing POCs, but all the complete POCs have converted into customers. And as we said, at the moment, we have 3-year agreements with them right after that. So
it's a pretty good number. Parikshit, you want to take things away?
Yeah, sure. I'm curious why you chose the employee level and not the corporation level. And I should disclose my skepticism with the question. I think when it comes to sustainability, a lot of the buck is passed on to the customer or the consumer by big corporations. Example, take shorter showers just masks the fact that big ag uses most of the water in California. I think I'm skeptical, and in spirit, I think more should be done at the systems level rather than the consumer level, because consumers shouldn't be penalized for consumption. We have to help them transition to greener, cleaner sources of consumption. So just I don't know if you have an answer to that.
No, that's a great question. I mean, that's a very good question in respect to the consumer. What we're not really seeing is that the employee is the equivalent of a consumer. The employee is part of the corporation as the company, and we're selling to companies to help them really accelerate their ESG goal implementation, which requires every employee, every stakeholder in that sense, to play a part in that role. Because you can't expect to be a net zero company when your employees are not thinking net zero in their day-to-day business activities, and when they're not considering CO2 impact as the equivalent of cost, right? So essentially, CO2 impact is cost for companies. And if you're being very wasteful with your CO2 emissions because you're not kind of have the right awareness and the right drive to reduce emissions of your day-to-day work, you're just creating lots of cost for the company. And on the other side, also, we've gotten a lot of demand from the companies because in the beginning, it's also quite a strong employer branding topic for them, right? So we have lots of young talent, which just is very cautious, especially over here in Europe, where they're working. And nowadays, for them, it's very important also to know that they're working for a company that is moving towards becoming a sustainable company and not a company that's destroying the environment. So from an employer branding perspective, it's also very valuable to the companies. But yeah, at the end of the day, the quick short answer is it requires all of the teams, all of the individual employees to work together efficiently to have a CO2 efficient company.
Yeah. I had a question on what retention looks like, because at the end of the day, this is B2B2C, and corporate might have the willingness to pay, but they'll only pay if their employees are using it. So do you have those metrics?
Yeah, so right now we have, basically we roll out a package. Let's say we take on a division with like 2,000 employees. Right now on average, we have like 80% activation of all of the employees. And then we're averaging right now 50% monthly engagement across the entire year. So it's definitely something we can still improve, and we're working daily on and improving. But I think the first, why we are managing to achieve POC to contract conversion is because a lot more employees are being a lot more active than companies even expected at the beginning. So within our POCs, we set kind of milestones on what we want to have as success criteria, and we're able to achieve these most of the times. It's just at the end of the day for the employees, it's like their feedback is amazing, because they first of all see that there's something positive moving in the company. They're feeling engaged and involved into the climate agenda of the company, and not just the sustainability department. And on top of that, they're being rewarded on a daily basis for doing something good for the company. So it's a very engaging experience for the employees.
Yeah, for sure. And two-part question in response to that. The first is, you mentioned success metrics. What is your North Star metric for measuring the success of this app? And second, when you think of corporate ESG budgets, part of that is going to the employee directly in exchange for good adoption of practices, and part of that is going to you as an enabler. Do you have a sense of how that split looks like and how corporates are allocating their budgets?
So for us, the budget that we're experiencing at the moment is mainly being allocated essentially directly to us as an expecting return of investment on reduction of CO2 emission cost for them. So even though the employees are being rewarded, for instance, with seedlings that are being planted, that's also an investment the company has basically in order to increase their sequestration projects, biodiversity restoration projects. So we're not really, in that sense, being considered like a benefit for the employee at the end of the day. So I don't think we're taking any of that budget from the employees. So we're going fully into their CO2 emission reduction climate goal budgets, which Honeywell just, for example, released a study is much higher across the board than anyone would have expected, especially this year, which we're also experiencing. And sorry, could you just repeat the success criteria?
Yeah, what is your North Star metric for measuring the success of user engagement on your platform?
I mean, our key engagement KPIs are obviously activation of employees and monthly engagement activities. We have lots of different ones, which are we're aiming at having, for instance, 2 tons of CO2 reduction on average per employee, which is one of the KPIs we're measuring, or where we're heading towards. And another one that we're looking at is obviously the percentage of behavior change experienced by employees. So various ways to measure that through their engagement in the app. We're seeing on average per campaign a 50% improvement in their behavior. So those are kind of different KPIs we're looking at. Ideally, soon we'll be able to say we can measure the cultural readiness or the climate culture readiness of a company, but yeah, we still need to scale a bit more within these big companies, because
And if I can interject there, how are you measuring the actual and verifying the actual carbon footprint and preventing companies from greenwashing? Do you work with a third party verifier of the CO2?
Yeah, so we're in a transition, to be honest, right now. So we started out by estimating the CO2 emission reductions potentially per campaign that they were running. So we can do that very well, for instance, in terms of mobility, because as it's an app that the employees are using, we can track the coordinates, GPS, from which we then calculate the distance traveled and the mode of transportation. So we can have very accurate CO2 calculations being done on that front, but on other sides, it's much more difficult to calculate to make very good estimations. So now we're transitioning towards actually taking their energy, waste, etc. data as a baseline and to see how that is then impacted before and after a campaign has been conducted.
Is there a risk of you then averaging out this is what their new carbon impact looks like, because now they're doing this and recycling and biking to work, and then they get lazy, or they did it and now, well, we did it once and yeah, I forgot about this, or et cetera, and they just go back to their average once you don't have the actual campaigns constantly going?
Yeah, I mean, that's where we'll have to look for long-term data to see how long-term the behavior change really is. At the moment, it looks like that we're being very successful at having months-long even behavior change results from that. But essentially, where we're actually wanting to head towards is that we're really enabling them to start building any kind of campaign for any kind of work that they're doing. The end of the day is that we want to empower them to say, okay, how can I do my marketing campaign? How can I do procurement? How can I do, so that to fundamentally change the processes of how they are working. And then it's just the way they do business that has shifted, and we've enabled them to adopt these new ways of working. And then once you kind of recreate a process, or if you change the way that you're working, it's going to be less likely that you're going to go back to old processes when you've updated to new, more carbon efficient processes.
What would be like 4 examples of actions that you actionably tell employees to do that drive real impact that employees actually do?
So one interesting thing we've been working on right now with one of our customers is that, so they're looking at their factories and their technical teams being very knowledgeable about the electric motors that they have in their production facilities. Electric motors make up 45% of global electricity use, and most motors out there are ancient. So there's a huge gains that can be generated by identifying old electric motors, but there are just hundreds and hundreds of them in these floors. So no one's actually going through, they don't have inventories to go through to identify old motors. So you actually need the technicians to be and engage them and reward them to identify these old motors so that they can identify old ones, replace them with new ones, and have huge energy and carbon emission savings. That was one that was being built. There's other ones that are, for example, much more high level, where in fact really we're going out and we're engaging them to improve their business travels, to be more kind of climate friendly, to transition. I think now, I think I'm back. I was gone. So yeah, all right. Yeah, and then other ones that we're doing is like little things from like making sure that you're switching off your laptop instead of letting that charge, or having the way that you commute, as I said, the way that you eat in the canteen, so that actually if they are offering you vegetarian meals as an option, or that you actually take these on and not just eat the same meals that you were doing beforehand. And all of this is making a measurable reduction for CO2 in the workplace.
Is all the data anonymized? How do you avoid like a Jeff Bezos Minority Report of I'm watching you over your shoulder, your bonus is bad because your climate footprint isn't as good?
That's a huge topic, especially over here in Europe, where GDPR obviously is very prevalent. So any data that companies actually see is aggregated and anonymized. I mean, there are the leaderboards, but all of the employees need to opt in order to share that data, and at the same time are free to choose whether they want to put their real name in their profile or if they want to make up another name. And then the whole solution is created basically in order to engage the employees to make positive action. So negative reinforcement is something that just doesn't work in this respect. So for them, the way that they engage in the depth of the data that they see is just for them to help them improve. And what the other colleagues see is just like how engaged you are, for instance, but they won't see that you drove with your Porsche to work, or they won't see that you ate a steak for lunch, or they won't see that you didn't switch off your laptop. They will see that you were very engaged and earned a lot of trees, and as a reward for that.
I've seen a couple of these climate-focused employee engagement platforms. How do you think Eevie is most differentiated?
So the exciting thing is that we've been at this now for nearly 2 years, and we've learned and changed the approach a lot, because the first problem we were solving was actually the ones that we need to tell them what to do in order to work more climate friendly. But then we realized, like, either we have to be very specialized, like we had lots of farmer customers, for example. We could be very specialized in one niche and know very well on how to work in those different kind of lines of work, more climate friendly. But then we realized that actually there's a lot of hidden knowledge in these companies, and that there are lots of experts that basically just need a tool in order to build the campaigns, in order to engage employees. So the thing that we're doing fundamentally different is that we're not the carbon reduction experts, if you want, in any kind of field, but we're the platform that enables them to build any campaign that is relevant to their employees, and that these campaigns are then added to a library which become reusable for other companies. So we're kind of leveraging a network effect where we have already validated that campaigns being built or configured by customers were then reused by other customers and were then used as a basis to build another different campaign. So it's kind of this platform approach that actually takes us out of compared to our competitors, takes us out of the bottleneck to be able to scale any kind of climate related improvement of how we work, and just to focus on making it as replicable and as quick to scale as possible for the customers.
Got it. Thank you.
How have you managed to attract so many large corporates to become customers? What's your sales process look like? You said you're a small team.
So the first thing we do is we're very lucky that they actually have this huge problem. So they're looking for us, so we don't have to go out and educate them. They'll actually say, like, how do I engage my employees to be work more climate friendly? That's what they're looking for, and they'll find us in that term. And then we'll just try to convert them as quickly into a little kind of a paid proof of concept, which is not very expensive for them, where they can validate that this is actually the result that they're looking for, and that a platform, because that's the biggest question mark. Can you actually deliver what we need? Can you actually help our employees change their ways? Can you actually engage our employees? Will they actually use that? So we prove that very quickly in a proof of concept, through which we then actually get the advantage that we're already kind of circumventing the procurement a little bit. And that at that stage, when we then have to deal with procurement, we're already well established, so that we can actually then go through that procurement, data security aspect, which is very important, but which takes a lot of time. So we put that kind of long-term part of the sales cycle at the back end of it, after we've proven the value that we deliver. And then then what we happen to do is that we create local kind of sales supporters internally because they run the project, and then that's really successful. So they're really excited about it. So they really help us push through the sale then through the corporation, which is absolute must. Whenever we don't have like a local sales hero within the within the enterprise, it's just really hard to get that deal through.